All right, good morning, everybody. Hope you're having yourselves a fantastic start to the day here. Happy Monday, and what should hopefully be a nice trading day for us here today. We're kind of out of the muck here, right? So last, say 10 days or so, we had to deal with the futures roll, and we had to deal with FOMC, right? The first rate cut in a long time. And that definitely led to some more challenging market conditions than we would have wanted, right? Some kind of bouncy markets, right? Some choppy, indecisive PA. And now that a lot of that headline risk, right, and operational risk has been essentially alleviated, we should be putting ourselves in a situation where we can get back to kind of like open waters, right? Even though the last 10 days here were relatively challenging to trade, we still did well, right? We still made money. We still found our opportunities. We still focused on our risk management, and we still controlled the variables that we can control. And so today is continuing to build off of a lot of those core concepts, right? And the more that we focus on basically being the best loser, the easier it is for us to be the biggest winner. Now, I know this is something that I stress and talk about and rant and rave about on a daily basis. But for me, it's the single most important thing that differentiates winning traders from losing traders. So if we want to actually be successful, we want to create the kind of lives that we want for ourselves, right, with our trading, then that is the thing that we need to focus on significantly more than anything else. When we try to optimize for winning big, we tend to skip steps, right? We tend to skip our risk management steps. We tend to ignore our P&L. We tend to trust our losers are going to turn into winners, and we trust that our winners are going to turn into losers. So today is all about focusing on how can I control the things that consistently cost me money? How can I basically break that pattern of negative trading decisions so that I can put myself in situations, right, to be green? And if that means, right, ignoring our impulses, that means fighting through choppy price action, if that means trusting our winners when we're not good at trusting our winners, right, then we have to accomplish those objectives. There is no long-term success in trading if we can't essentially get onto the other side of that benchmark, right? So today is more of the same, right? Focus, trust our plan, make a plan, trade our plan, review our plan, and then from there, the P&L will take care of itself. So with that being said, I hope you all have yourselves a fantastic weekend, are refreshed, recharged, and ready to go. And hopefully we can have ourselves a strong trading day. Should also mention this, maybe not as much today, but tomorrow, I have some fire alarm tests going on in my building. So if you hear fire alarms going off in the background, I do apologize for that here in advance. It's a pain in the ass. It's going to drive me probably insane. So if you hear me ranting and raving and yelling at the wall, promise you it's because of the fire alarms. So with that being said, let's start mapping things out here, team. Figure out what we want to do. And hopefully, right, we can have ourselves a strong trading session. So good morning, Suresh, Steven, Ruben, Greg, Brian, Tanja, Juan, Topher, Sarah, Igor, Samuel, SG, Bergs, Salstein, Emil, Nate, Sammy, Chad, Dustin, Ben, Daniel, Antonin, Jen, Michael, Emmanuel, and Adnan. Hope you guys are all having yourselves are doing well here. Good morning, Ashley. So, start off with economic calendar here today, right, for Monday, September 23rd. We got some Fed speak here. Bostic already yapping away here in the background. We have PMI at 9:45, and then we got some more Fed speak here later this afternoon, / this morning. So hopefully that kind of keeps us out from too many kind of chaotic trades, right? And the algos don't go too crazy here today. Now, it's not any of the head honchos, so we should be relatively okay. But again, something just to be aware of here if we do see like random big volume showing up. Friday, right, ended up being essentially an inside bar day across the board on that option expiration. And we did a great job taking advantage of the momentum that was available to us trading crude. And hopefully we can look for more of those same types of opportunities here today. So let's start off the count here, guys. What's the count on ES? Let's start there. And then, yeah, we can see what the best opportunity is. Yeah, inside bar, right? Good morning, Tasha. Inside bar day here, absolutely, right? So that means Friday was a day of consolidation. And that kind of makes sense if we're going to go back and think about what the price action felt like on Friday, right? It didn't feel great. It didn't feel like it was super trending. And yeah, nice to be green, but not a session where we had a big chance to pyramid into any trades or anything along those lines. With less headline risk, I would think that sets us up for a little bit more possibility or potential, right, for that type of price action. But yeah, let's see if it actually ends up showing up here this morning. Good morning, KG. So yeah, inside bar here. That means you're going to be targeting a move towards 5,800, right? Or then targeting a move down towards like 5730. So we'll start that off. If we were to say a little bit of a bias here in either direction, would we say we have more of a bullish bias or a bearish bias, and why? Yeah, bullish, right? We're above previous all-time highs. So we kind of have that bull breakout here. So we're looking for basically a continuation narrative. And that doesn't mean it's guaranteed to be bullish day here. But yeah, we're hopeful that we can get that enthusiasm to show up this morning. All right, cool. NQ. What's the count? Similar, not so similar. How do we feel about that? Yeah, similar, right? Inside bar. Good morning, Ben. Right, so very similar story here. Again, trend line breakout. So we do have a bit of like a thesis, right, to suggest that maybe bulls are more in control than bears. And then what's different, right, about NQ is that breakout happened on volume versus on ES, right, that happened on a decreasing volume standard. Doesn't mean that the ES trend is weaker. I mean, it's at all-time highs, so you got to be a little bit cautious there. But we have a very similar narrative here across the board. Now, we're going to be targeting a move towards 22, right? Not much is changing there from the upside. And then to the downside, we can go like 19.9. Yeah, 19.9 and then down towards like 19.6, 19.5. Something along those lines would be pretty reasonable. And then even beyond that, like 19.4, 19.3. I mean, it gives us so much space, but let's see if it actually shapes up. Oftentimes, right, Mondays aren't the wildest day, but if we even get 100 points of range, right, that should be a very tradable opportunity for us here this morning. All right, CL. So what's the count here on crude? Similar story to what we saw in the indexes, not so similar. How do we feel? Yeah, very similar, right? Good morning, Randall. Inside bar day here, right, on Friday. So we're still going to be looking for a breakout above. I mean, we'll go 72 at this point, right? So that'll be our initial target. And then beyond that, we have that mapped out towards 74.50. Plenty of space. And then to the downside here, like 70.50. And then we have it mapped out as well. So we're in pretty decent shape here. Good morning, Kenneth. How you doing? Good morning, Brian. All right, Apple. So Apple's an interesting case here, right? Massive sell-off going into close with that option expiration, right? We wiped out like 3% of gains, right? Something along those lines in 15 minutes. So 2.5% of gains in about 15 minutes, which is a preposterous move, right? And now it's gapping down here significantly. So a little bit of a contrary narrative, right, to the bull case. So we'll call it a 3 for 3 here to the downside. So NA, right, no bull case here, really heavy sellers. And we're looking for a continuation narrative, maybe to fill that gap, right, so down towards like 222. So if our leading names are, I mean, we've only looked at one here so far, right? But if our leading names such as Apple are really flushing here this morning, how's that going to make us feel about a bull case on the indexes? Is that going to give us more of a bullish bias or a bearish bias? Yeah, slightly bearish, right? So if we're going to be bullish, we're going to want to see bulls step up and reclaim control here and see a consistent narrative across the board. If we're going to be bearish, right, we want to see a consistent narrative here to the downside as well. All right, Tesla, a little inside bar there, right? So much more similar story to what we saw on the index level. And so we're still going to look for that 245 breakout, right? That's fine. No dip buy scenario. And then here to the downside, right, we're going to look for a breakdown under Thursday's range, which is like 231. Now, we're closer to that 245, right? So a little bit easier for maybe the upside here on Tesla. But let's make sure that the story gets consistent. And then that volume, right, not super concerning for me because we can anticipate there to be a tremendous amount of volume when there's option expiration, right? So it makes sense that, okay, it's not quite increasing volume, but it's still well above outlier. So we can explain that away, right, with the price action or the scenarios that were in play on Friday. All right, Microsoft. FU volume, right, similar to Apple, quote unquote, day 3 for 3 here to the downside. So we are still looking for a continuation narrative lower. We're going to look for a 433 breakdown towards like 430 and beyond. So what we're looking for here, right, already is we want to see if we're going to be bullish, right, that Microsoft and Apple and Tesla either find dip support or break out if we're going to get a clean narrative here to the upside. If we're getting a divergence, right, between the indexes and our leading names, that probably tells us that we're going to have a choppy or challenging session, and we're going to have to wait, right, for the path of least resistance to be determined before we front run that narrative. So today's going to be all about, again, being probably a little bit patient here this morning, right? And once we establish that clean direction, then we can have ourselves a little bit of joy. All right, so Amazon 3 for 3 here to the upside. So that gives me a 192 breakout is what we're looking for here. And then to the downside, NA. So 2 names up, right? 2 names down. So again, right, that like teeter-totter of leading names is giving us a divergent narrative. All right, in AMD, red candle, decreasing volume, gap up. All right, so it's a 1 for 3 here to the downside. We'll call this a weak 1 for 3 because that candle shape is pretty pathetic. So we're still going to be looking for a 160 breakout here. Good morning, Rod. And then to the downside, right, we're looking for a 152 breakdown. So reminds me probably a little bit more of Tesla than anything else, right? Because we're closer to the upper end of our breakout target versus the lower end. So again, we're going to want to see good enthusiasm show up here this morning prior to us being aggressive. Good morning, Jason. All right. NVIDIA continues to consolidate inside this pattern. Good increasing volume. A little bit of a baby gap up. So it is a 2 out of 3 here to the downside with volume. And we're still going to say in a possible flag pattern. So now, right, because we have that volume standard supporting, or basically inside this shelf, we'd like to see an increasing volume standard on a breakout above, right? If we're going to play that 121 breakout, it's got to be on bigger volume than what we saw there yesterday. Alternatively, right, if we break down under this like 113.50 area, we don't need as much volume confirmation. But if we're saying that this pattern is consolidation and this volume wasn't enough to get us out of consolidation, then we'd like to see an impressive oomph, right, show up before we do anything here this morning. All right, Meta, 3 for 3 here. So again, one name up, one name down, right? So far this morning. We got 568 here this morning. So we'll go dip buy off of yesterday's highs, right? So 460, 564 dip buy, 564 dip buy, or a breakout over 568. And then because it's a 3 for 3, right, NA here to the downside. Okay, Netflix, inside bar. So we're looking for a breakout above 716, right, or a breakdown under 695. Cool. All right, Google. Got to zoom in here. So it did go inside bar here. Again, inside bar on increasing volume during option expiration. Not a huge deal. I can kind of discredit that volume a little bit. And we're still going to be looking for a breakout here over that 164 area, right? Hanging out right at that zone here pre-market. Or, right, we're looking for a 161 breakdown. And then VIX hanging out 16.37. So we'd anticipate the VIX to climb, right, if we're going to be bearish. And we're going to expect VIX to dump, right, if we're going to be bullish. And in general, right, the narrative that we need to see here this morning is one of consistency. ES and NQ, right, telling us periods of consolidation. And that makes sense, right, if we're seeing kind of like, you know, one name up, one name down from our leading names. So we'd like to see either of those narratives become more apparent, right? So seeing, you know, the Apples of the world really drag things down. Or, right, we're going to want to see Tesla lead the charge and bring everything up with it. If we do get those consistent stories here, then we set ourselves up nicely, right, for a potential trend day breakout. And then hopefully that opportunity, right, to build up some awesome position sizing. If we don't see that here today and we don't get those types of narratives, then not the end of the world. Again, we'll have to be patient. We'll have to be cautious. We'll have to filter out trades that are suboptimal. And ideally, right, things sync up here pretty smoothly and cleanly early in the session. If not, it'll be a lot like Friday, where we get a lot of pseudo setups, right? And then we have to really just be really patient filtering out our trades and being snipers with our entries. So if we were able to do it on Friday, we'll be able to do it again on Monday. No real concerns about that here today. but just understanding that, hey, we got to fight and we got to work, and we have to work an honest day's living here today in the market, just while we're patient, right, for everything to sync up and become consistent. The more consistent that story becomes, easier it is for us to trade. So that's what we're hoping for here today. Good morning, Jeff. And hopefully that sets us up here in a nice way. I'm also expecting, right, that there aren't any technical glitches on ES1 here this morning, right? On Friday, we saw, one time frame giving us opportunities, and then one time frame not printing price action. So I'm anticipating that to be cleared. If not, I do have EZ 2024 here, ESZ 2024, I should say, sorry, already loaded up. So if it does end up being that case, we'll make that easy switch. But yeah, I imagine it won't be that narrative here this morning. Good morning, PJ. Good morning, Devin. So any questions, your team? Anything doesn't make sense? Anything you want me to review or go over? Please let me know. So dip buy from our strategy documents, right, is this low vol fake out scenario, right? So it's there. And a dip buy would be, inside Thursday's range, right? Something along those lines. Yeah, Nautilus. So I trade using two accounts. I trade like a family fund for my dad and my sisters through Interactive Brokers. So I do that. There's kind of like a long-term rolling portfolio there. And then through my prop firm accounts, I do that through TopStep. And then the connection I have at the moment with TopStep is through their TopStep X platform. Yeah, no worries, man. No worries. Any other questions here, team? Yeah, so we'll talk about that as things are setting up here. I'll tell you, what my price is going to be and what I'm looking for as price action is setting up. What I'm going to need first, right, is for one of these setup triggers to occur. So either this, high vol breakout, low vol fake out, or this pullback, right, on either the upside or the downside. And then we'll start to map things out and break down those specifics. Right now, I don't have enough information to be able to tell you, what my perfect entry price is going to be or anything along those lines. So you have to just bear with me here for a few minutes until the market opens up and we start to get price action that goes in our direction. But yeah, I'll make sure I walk you through all those variables as we're setting up our trades. Good morning, Howell. Good morning, Alice. All right, team. So we got 5 minutes here till market open. I'm just going to go make myself a quick cup of coffee here, spend a few minutes visualizing a successful trading day, and then we'll jump back on here and do a quick rundown before the session starts. We'll be back in a few minutes. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat, and then I'll make sure I answer them here as well. So we'll be back in a couple minutes, and we'll chat then. All right, team. So let's have ourselves a fantastic trading day here today. Like I said, we should have a slightly cleaner path here this week, right? Without having to deal with FOMC or the futures roll. So that should, in theory, right, put ourselves, going up and hopefully putting ourselves in a good situation. So let's see, right, if we can get ourselves a plus look here, put ourselves in a situation to really kick off the week with a bang. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the market gives us here this morning and what kind of volatility we do actually end up getting. Obviously, like I said, the most important narrative here that we need to fall in love with is one of consistency. So need to see a consistent story from our leading names here across the board. I want to see either dip buyers, right, showing up in our Apples of the world, right? Or I want to see sellers showing up, right, in our kind of strong names here to the upsides, like the Teslas, right? So just depending on where that consistent narrative shows up here, it's going to be kind of our leading indicator over what direction we want to have a bias towards. So let's be a little bit patient here. We got to be a little bit cautious, and then we can kind of go from there. We have some data this morning, right, at 9:45. So again, that might just slow us down here a little bit in this initial, say, 15 to 20 minutes. But after that, we should have a relatively clear calendar for us to trade through, and then we can go from there. Same deal like always around market data. If I do get a look here this morning, I'll have like a 1 minute close period, right? So what that means is if we're within a minute to the data drop and I'm either green or red, I'll just close my position instead of allowing the news narrative, right, to punish me or reward me, because that's ultimately a gamble. So we should have enough opportunities here today where we don't have to worry about that necessarily. But yeah, we'll see basically how things shape up this morning, right? And what kind of levels of enthusiasm we see across the board. So yeah, any questions to your team? Anything that maybe might have missed? So far, relatively bullish, right? Pretty much everywhere bar Apple. All right, so Apple's continuing to see some selling pressure. And like I said it already, but I'll mention it again here this morning. If for whatever reason you hear me go muted for a few extra minutes today and tomorrow, I do apologize for that. I've got some fire alarm tests going off in my building. So hopefully that doesn't last for very long. But yeah, if it does happen and you hear me cursing and then going on mute, it's a reaction to the fire alarm giving me a headache versus the market not being very fun. So we'll see how things shape up here. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a little heads up about that this morning. So ES, right, looks a little bit more like, say, looks like we got relatively actually selling pressure here now, flipped, right? After the initial 3 minutes, everything kind of went red on us. So that probably makes it a little bit easier for us to have a bearish narrative here this morning. But let's see if that story ends up actually syncing up and being consistent. Higher high and a higher low on ES. That's concerning, right? The lack of consistency in that narrative tells us maybe a chop and drop, right? Versus a big pump here early. We'll see. So I don't think I see the same timeline issues that I had last Friday. So let's see. And then we do have a setup trigger here to the downside already, but not a confirmation standard. So we need to see this thing close outside of the opening range on a decent volume pop. Might get there. Let's see. So didn't close on an increasing volume standard, so no entry or action, right? It's not the high vol breakout here, so no look. Again, the thing we talked about here a little bit this morning is we might have to wait, right, for that 945 data to drop before we have that chance to be aggressive. Yeah, we're not expecting us to get more volume than what we saw on Friday here, to be honest, Sammy, because that option expiration is a little bit of an outlier event. So today, mostly we're looking for a consistent narrative here, right, across the board before we're willing to take many trades. But I think we might struggle a little bit for consistency here early. Like I said, that PMI data at 945 is going to be a little bit of a sticky narrative. So I basically don't want to overrate that, right? Overrate the early price action until that gets out of the way. Like that's starting to look maybe more like a fake out scenario, right, than a breakdown scenario, as Apple's potentially finding some dip buyers. But again, no real clear signal yet from price action to indicate a desire to be aggressive, right? So just like Friday, we had to wait it out for a long time before we got a good entry. Today seems like it's setting up early doors to be similar to that, right? So to say start the session off, right, the objective here is to basically protect our mental capital so that if and when a setup does come together, we have all of our, willpower and effort, right, focusing on us controlling the variables we can't control instead of on losing ourselves some cash, right? So if we get too like emotionally attached to the price action to start the session off, or we get whatever XYZ, then when a trade comes together, we're just going to make mistakes, right? We're either going to get too early on our entries, we're going to cut our winners too early, we're going to size too aggressively, whatever it might be. So it's all about controlling those variables here this morning so that we do have the mental brain power, right, to chase after the best looking setups only. And that's not great volume on that recovery. So again, I'm being cautious here. I've got limited reasons to be aggressive yet. And that's across crude, NQ, and ES, right? Nothing really giving me a clean look here short term. And then data drops in 6 minutes. So that could be what the market is waiting for here early doors, right? That PMI data. But again, I'm not going to front run that. So as we get within a couple minutes, right, of that happening, I'll probably put a clamp on my decision making, right, to not place any trades. Right, if it's a relatively choppy start to the market, and then I know I've got kind of like a shot clock on any position, well, the market's telling me that, hey, you're not going to get a ton of follow through in 5 minutes. So don't get emotionally attached to that, right? Because that algo move that might happen, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but one that might happen is going to be draining. So instead of taking a financial risk, I'd rather protect my mental capital, right? Sit on hands if I have to, and just not do anything stupid. Always the priority, right? The more I can avoid self-sabotage, generally the better my trading goes. And so far, right, if we look at this on the daily time frame, we're like pretty doji-esque, right? So far from a high conviction environment here in the short term. Remember, team, it's not about the quantity of decisions, it's about the quality of decisions. Okay, Apple's starting to push towards highs. Tesla making decent moves. Microsoft still away from those lows. So again, I'm still seeing evidence of requiring to be patient. VIX fading a little bit, but not enough to be aggressive yet. So I'm still being very, very cautious here, team. We got 3 minutes till data, so I'm going to wait it out. Really, no reason to jump into anything yet. I'm just going to grab a hoodie here. Just give me a second. I'll be right back. It is officially the first day of fall, right? So it's cold. So shame. Summer's over. Yeah, looks like it's probably raining now or close to raining. It was wet this morning when I was walking my dog. So it looks like we got some rain overnight. Pretty gloomy here too. Ooh, Greg, yeah, okay, you're experiencing it worse than me. So, okay, my complaints are not justified. Good morning, Jeremy. How you doing? Ah, fair play, man. Oof. White horse would be a tough assignment. Oh my gosh. All right, so data drops here in a minute, team. That was quite the algo reaction. Both ways. Interesting. This is ugly so far. So we definitely got that volume, right, from the algos, but now we need to see outlier volume on a breakdown here under, right, and a hold. That might be the challenging / missing piece here this morning. Again, relatively chaotic open without it giving me any separation. This now might be setting up for that possible fake out scenario. So we'll look to play this on the 5-min time frame here. We want to see a breakout now above the opening range high. Right, ES, maybe we could play the reversal scenario, right? There's your little fake out, right? So bears fail. We need to see this close as increasing outlier volume. NQ giving me a better volume profile, which is why I'd rather focus on this. CL, not so great. So I'll be watching NQ here. Okay, so 30 seconds to go here. Let's see how this thing closes. Realistically, we're going to want to see a aggressive entry technique, right? Not the pullback technique, right? Because the pullback, we probably have to go to our stop loss low of day. Should be a 37-point stop, right? So that's a little bit too much from a position sizing perspective, right? To be able to get a good entry. Whereas if we get the aggressive, right, we should be able to get our stop loss to be less than 15 points, ideally. Right, so let's see if where this thing finds support here, and then we can look to map things out. So if as is, right, stop loss would be 20.094.50. And we need to see elevator up and then pull back down. So now we got to push the stop loss lower. See where it finds support. It's closed right at 2100. Interesting. So 10-point stop loss, right, as is. Now it's going to be a bit more. Now it's going to be like 15. That would be $300 a contract, right? Something along those lines. So that would be 2 contracts I'd be okay taking a trade with. And then we want to see this thing break out aggressively, right, above that 2100 area. So can start to set things up here a little bit, right? So stop loss would be 20.88, and we're looking for point to point higher and then tick to tick pullback lower. We're not seeing that tick to tick pullback lower. Still could be in play here. Now a 76 stop loss. So that would be now a 1 contract play. So we're still not getting the right reaction from an entry perspective. Huh. 3-min's giving me that possible opportunity. Don't like how the 3-min couldn't hold above 2100 though. That for me is probably the red flag. So I'm going to say pass on this for now. That looks like a not appealing entry. So if this makes higher highs, right, and higher lows, and closes probably above that 2100 shelf, I'd say it could reset back up. But it would be on the 5-min here versus the 3. And then on ES, there's a little bit of a dip buy scenario there. But that is a kind of a aggressive pullback, right? And then the doji. So again, less appealing here to say that it's like good bullish momentum. So higher high, higher low after your confirmation does not invalidate this. What currently has been invalidated, right, is basically being able to get the position sizing that we crave. So on the pullback lower there, we would have been risking about $750 per contract, which is too much for me on NQ. I want my max risk to be about 500 bucks. 500 to 600, we'll say. And that wasn't it. And then pair that, right, with the instant rejection of 2100 or 20,100. I can't say that right for some reason. That gives me reasons to be pessimistic. If this goes increasing volume, that will also be a reason to negate, right, my bullish thesis. So this will be close. Again, we're going to be looking for an aggressive entry technique to get the position sizing we want. If this finishes as like a least bearish candle, right, that's not a bad thing. But then we'd want to see a breakout over, you know, 2105. Which you might not get easily. Okay, so this would be a one contract play if it does shape up. But it needs to break out above high a day with that elevator technique, right? So we want to see it go point to point higher and then a weak pullback into that 2102.25. It's almost 10 a.m. No data at 10 a.m. here today. This price action feels like it's moving violently as well. So not an easy narrative here for us so far this morning. Not yet here, Jen. I'm very paranoid of like the 10 a.m. reversal you tend to get on CL. So I want to see that happen first. The other thing that makes me a little bit nervous is like, see how this candle is opening up like below the close? So that tells me, right, that you have a lack of liquidity because there's slippage in the candles. So although that's good volume, it's a little bit deceptive. Yeah, so I want to avoid getting slapped. CL seems to be setting up better for us consistently as like a slightly more mature later in the day type trade. So it's kind of like end of day, worst case scenario type idea. So are you seeing a delay on the price or are you seeing a delay on the stream? There's two reasons, right, that could be causing your delay. One, you're not live on YouTube. So the stream latency that we have here is about 3 seconds. So it should never be 6 minutes. The other option, right, or the other potential reason, right, is you don't have live market data, which would mean that your prices are significantly different than mine. It would be about a 10-minute delay on prices. Okay, so far we've done a good job avoiding traps, right? So far. I mean, this NQ little fake out is kind of impressive. So this could be setting back up here for the upside, right? We're going to be close to outlier volume on this candle, so we'll have another opportunity to reset. Yeah, it should be, I mean, about 3 to 4 seconds. So on YouTube's end, the settings that I stream on, the ultra low latency settings, it's advertised as 3 seconds of latency. Any extra delay on top of that, there's a million different variables there that could sync up. But that's the lowest that you can find available online. So like Twitch has a 30-second delay. Most of the other platforms have a even longer delay than that. So this ultra low latency is the shortest I can get it. ES exploding higher. So NQ, again, back to business here. We probably want to look for that aggressive entry technique again. Right, if we're going to justify, because we want to see it give us elevator above previous area of resistance, right, which was that 2105. And then stop loss, right, not to be too much lower than what it is now. Right, so we can see the stop loss go to as far as 2080.50 before this gets invalidated on the 3-min time frame. Because what we're looking for as our entry, right, is for previous area of resistance to act as support for our, like, bullish explosion higher. ES gave us slightly better close, I would say. So maybe this is more appealing. Less muck in the way. Right, and we closed above that previous area of resistance, which I like a lot. So I'm going to focus on ES here. And we're looking for elevator up above this 57.7650. Again, we don't want to see this thing pulling back here too much. Right? It can go as far as 71.75, but that would be less than ideal. So let's see if it's got some legs here. That would be a 3-point stop loss, right? Approximately, if we get an entry at 57.7650. So 3 times 50 means $150 per contract. So I could buy 3 contracts, right, to start this position off. Now it need to be less. So now it would be a 4.5-point stop loss, right? So 4.5 times 50. Do some quick math. So it'd be a 2-contract play. Okay, so again, probably too much of a pullback here now, right on the cusp of what's acceptable. So might just have to wait this thing out. Again, very choppy start to the session here so far. Right, especially on the indexes. Crude a little bit smoother, but indexes, it's one candle up, one candle down pretty much. So let's see if this thing has the legs to go aggressive again. So it'd be 2 contracts. So again, right, we want to see it pop out above high a day, right? It's like, you know, if the groundhog shows its head, you got 6 more weeks of winter or whatever it is. Well, in this case, right, if the price action pops its head above, right, its resistance, then we're going to have some conviction, right, that we have a nice setup here to the upside. Otherwise, this just looks like a choppy disaster in the short term. Might have to wait it out. Okay, so now watching closely here, right? Stop loss would be 57.72. Entry would be a high vol breakout, right? Or we're seeing aggressive pop higher above this yellow line. So it goes from like being 77.650, right, to like 77.8, 77.9, and then a tick by tick pullback into that area. So we want to see it move higher faster above that area of resistance, and then a weak, slow rejection back down towards that previous area of resistance. I mean, maybe best case scenario, we're not going to get outlier volume on this. So that's that point to point. So I'm watching here, guys. I am watching. And this would be 2 contracts. Let this candle close. So now if you miss that entry, right, you can get the aggressive entry technique, something like this. Maybe you want a slightly deeper pullback here still. Just so see how basically bears fail, right, and then jump in. So not yet, right? That was point to point lower. Yep, another good trade avoided here so far. Nasty little fake out. Interesting. So again, no setup here on the 3-min. None on the 10. Just look at these wicks, right? This is not telling us momentum is in play here yet. So I have to really fight for this so far. This is deja vu to Friday all over again. So best case scenario would have been in a trade, stopped out, and then faked out. So again, now we can reset here. Look for that same reaction, right? Establish support here above this opening range breakout. Can't let it make lower lows like it did there previously. And then look for elevator up, stairs down into 78.50. So we're fighting here a little bit, right? This is a market that's trying to create max frustration here to start the session off. We're just not falling for it, which is nice. Like, I don't think I wouldn't have made money, right, so far yet today on any of the setups we've had. So it's been more profitable, right, to talk myself out of trades than into trades here. So again, right, you get a high vol breakout above this 78.50. We can use this 76 area as our area of support. Then all of a sudden, right, we're back in business here. We can't see this thing pull back too much lower. Max pullback of 74.50 before this gets invalidated on the 3-min. Otherwise, okay, there we go. Otherwise, we lose the risk reward ratios. So we'll have to switch to a different time frame. And this is just ugly, ugly, ugly so far. So no money made, no money lost here as of yet. I'm in my second most profitable position, right? Which is no trade at all. Starting to maybe feel more like a rejection day than a breakout day. But I don't have a conclusive bit of evidence to support that thesis yet. It's just the more evidence you get, or this is kind of confirmation bias to a certain extent, but the more times you see price action reject and fail at highs, especially psychological highs, we've seen that pattern really be one of like conviction here recently. You know, 1 fake out, 2 fake out, 3 fake out, high volume sell-off. That's not a bad setup. So that would be that low vol fake out scenario here. We're going to be close to get the outlier volume on the 5 on NQ. Not going to get it on ES. So it's going to be skin of its teeth here. Ooh, just touched, I would say. Just touched. So I would say I have a possible setup here to the downside. Again, we need to use the aggressive entry technique as it made a lower low before pulling back. Yeah, Mondays are often like that. So I'm watching here closely, team. Stop loss would be 2063. Again, see if it can find support here off of these lows. Right, and breakdowns. We want to see previous areas of resistance, right, turn into support for our downside narrative. That was, again, a point-to-point recovery. So No reason to be setting this thing here up yet. Maybe we get stuffed here and then we can make lower lows again. That's a good rejection. It's a very good rejection. So this could be 2 contracts as is. But let's see a little bit of separation away from this low, right? So our target here is to break down under this yellow line with that elevator down, right? Tight price action, so it moves faster lower than it moves higher. And then a tick by tick pullback into that 20.53.50. So still no, still no. Man, this is making me work today. Jesus. So again, if we can see another stuff here, right, that's happened before. So an aggressive stuff. And then again, right, elevator down, stair, pull back, back. We've seen elevator go in one direction and then elevator come all the way back almost immediately. Right, so all that tells us is just a lot of volatility, right, without necessarily it being a trending bit of PA. Crude not really moving here either, so we're doing pretty well just sitting on hands for now. Okay, this could still be in business. Stop loss would have to be 75. And that would now be a 1 contract play. Lower low, lower high on the 3 min. Decreasing volume. But like a little doji, right? So not a great look either. Oh, we are fighting here, team. We are fighting. We talked about this a little bit, right, to start the session off. Today is all about protecting that mental capital so that when a setup comes together, we have basically the energy left, right, to be able to trade it properly. So far, right, we've avoided obvious mistakes that would have saved us money, right? So 100% agree, Jared. Good things tend to happen when we're patient. And this market's really forcing us to be patient. What I almost assume is going to happen here across the board is just another fake out, though. Like, I'm having serious trust issues that any of this price action is actually going to sustain. Yeah, have a great day, Jeremy. We'll see you tomorrow, man. And yeah, very choppy day here so far. Very, very choppy. So we've not missed out on literally anything. So again, this is another rejection, right, of that 2100 area. How many times has that happened here so far today, right? At some point, that's got to give us a setup, one would think. Crude, not enough volume at these highs to play the rejection. So I'm being patient here, team. I don't see much edge yet. We are fighting here, fighting. So again, right, we're retesting that 2100 area here. And if it can break through, right, this will be our new setup trigger here to the upside. But it's got to happen on increasing outlier volume. And it's finally clearing, and it now needs to hold, right, above this yellow line. So we want it to hold previous areas of resistance and see that turn into support, right? And if it does, okay, cool. We'll have a chance. So that's above 2105, right? We have outlier volume here. We got increasing volume. So it just needs to hold that extra 5 points pretty much. And then again, right, we're going to reset. Map out our risk-reward ratios, right? Something like this. Okay, it held. It held. You don't want to see it pulling back too much here. And if we don't get a look on the 3-man, we'll default this thing back to the 5. It's too big of a stop here. 33 points, one contract. That's like $660. Oh, fuck. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. So hopefully that's the last of it. The fucking timing is terrible. On the 5-man, looks a little bit better for that pullback entry. It'd be 20-ish points, right? 22 point stop loss. So you could do one contract there. 24 points. So 24 times 20, right, would be your stop loss. So I'm starting to look into this here, team. NQ here to the upside. Stop would be 2072. Don't like the candle on ES nearly as much. But very similar setup, I would agree. My primary focus here is going to be NQ on the 5-min time frame. It's going to be want to see this previous area of resistance turn into support. Maybe a little bit concerning how easily 2100 got flushed there. Same story on ES, right? Resistance does not hold very easily. And that's what we've pretty much seen all morning so far, though, Topher, right? So that's why being patient here is kind of going to pay off for us, because price action is behaving the same way it has all morning. So we want to see that proven otherwise happen here first before we jump in with any level of aggression. Right? So even on this NQ here now, like, I would be probably more surprised if we didn't make a lower low on this candle, right? Now again, so far holding up fine, but it hasn't bounced the way that you'd want, right, if bulls were strong. Right, again, we're looking for that elevator upstairs down. I think we've probably mostly seen elevator down here so far. I can't shake that feeling of a breakdown under that 2100 area being so easy. Now it's 10:30, so it's still early. That's better, much better. But this would be a one contract play as is, right? If you get into the 80s again, then maybe you could think about 2 contracts. But for now, this is still just the one. Little inside bar, right? Low pullback, not a big deal. Okay, closed above 20,000. So we can get aggressive, maybe. Okay, so I'm going to start watching here, team. Basically want to see that 20,000 act as support, right? If I can get evidence of that, then that sets me up nicely for a pop. If I can't, then my fear is that we remain range bound. So a 94, I mean, a 10-point stop loss would be epic if we can get it. All right, that would allow me to size up nicely. It may be unlikely. So now 91.25 would be the stop. Now lower. Man, I look away and it goes off. So that'd be 87. And your entry price would have to be 105.25. So risking 365 per contract, approximately 370 per contract. My math is correct. So this would be right on the cusp of a 2-contract play. I would probably default to trading smaller than larger, personally, because this has been a Chop City morning. So less appealing to go mega size. Right? If it's strong, we'll get more than one chance to jump back in. But if it's just going to be a choppy day, I'd rather have less of an emotional attachment than a bigger one. So I'll go 1 contract here if I can get that pop. And I'll be risking, yeah, 365 bucks here. So if I'm wrong, I'll be wrong small. If I'm right, I'll have a chance to add into a winner and build this thing up nicely. So again, waiting for that elevator up, stairs down, right above 105.25. And basically we're trying to see that 20,000 area act as support. Until that happens, it's hard to be aggressive here. Maybe that alarm was a sign from Powell to be very patient here. So now your stop loss have to be 72. I don't know if this is going to hold. So the way that I set up my trades here, so if you see my fibs, right, it has prices, right? So it's got 20, 99, 25 as the green, so that's entry, right? And then 20, 72, right, as the stop loss. So if your objective is to copy my trades, I would recommend using limit orders with hard stop losses set, and then trying to click submit when you're under that limit price. So it'll work kind of like a market order, but you won't get a fill ever greater than 20.099.25. So it's kind of like a hybrid model. The other thing that you can do, right, is set your ticks to be at the ask if you're long, right, or at the bid if you're bearish. No, currently still not in a trade. I will always write out my trades here on the screen if something happens. And I'll always also share that information in the Discord. So we're still looking for an entry here, but haven't quite pulled the trigger. Kind of. I'm looking for either area of support hold, right around where we're at right now, which is not going to happen, right? And the breakout I had, or the thesis I had here previously for an aggressive breakout, was to see previous high of day act as support for continuation higher. So none of those things have occurred here yet. So no setup. So ES on the 15 is maybe giving me a look. What is this? Yeah, no worries, Jen. Let's see if I can fix this. Remember, guys, I trade through Top Step X. Okay, there we go. So I use TradingView purely for charting, just so you guys know. I don't look at overnight gaps. Doesn't mean it's not valid. It's just, yeah, I don't feel like I need more information. All right, sorry about that. So on this 15 min, right, 70, 57, 68, 25 would be the stop loss. Okay, right? It's held above previous high a day on increasing outlier volume. Normal body bullish candle. Body of the candle is bigger than the top wick. So the idea is not invalidated. Can I just find an aggressive amount of support here? That would be what I'm interested in. Clearly no, at least not yet. So again, another rejection. Increasing outlier volume here. Here's maybe some trend lines that we got to be a bit aware of. So he bounced pretty nicely there. Okay, I'm gonna start looking for an entry ES long. This would be 2 contracts. Again, it has to be under 74. So that's a good elevator up, right? Really good bounce off of that trend line, essentially acting as support. So can I now just find an entry? Let's see. Okay, so watching here, team, watching closely. All right, so I am in average price 57.73.25. Two contracts. Stop loss at 5768. And a great entry here. Holy smokes. Nailed it, guys. Nailed it. So we want to see this thing really finish strong here, right? Don't pull back really towards that 74 here anymore. I want to continue seeing some impressive follow through here to the upside. But that's a quick $500. So really, really good entry, right? That patience is paying off here tremendously. Let's see if we got some oomph here left. Who's in this with me? Were those instructions clear? Everyone understood the plan? All right, love it, team. Love it. Nice work, Dwayne. So yeah, generally a couple rules of thumb, right? Once I enter, it's pretty rare that you don't get a retest of my entry price again, right? So you could set that to be your limit price if you wanted to, whatever. But that's how it looks. So let's see if this thing still has some legs here to the upside. That's a really good recovery. We'd love to see it get back up above that 80 handle, and then we can really run. So that's plus 550. See a bit more juice here. And NQ back up above 20,000 or 2100. Man, I cannot say that for some reason. So let's see if this thing can give me some follow through. If it can't, I'll take my win and move on. Again, not every day has to be a monster. If I take $500 per account, I won't complain about that. Everyone understand the thesis here? Is that clear to everyone? Nice work, Derek. Quick little scalp. Let's see if this thing still got some juice here. So that's 575. Let's see if it's got some more. Really going to be watching around this reaction to 5780, right? That for me is really what I care about right now. And then I'm side-eyeing NQ here. If this thing breaks down way under 2100, I will also look to get out. Right? Because both of these tickers are kind of moving in unison. And so that's also a very obvious psychological level for us to watch. But again, hard work has paid off here today, right? Not chasing bad setups, ignoring compromised trades, right? Not basically draining our mental capital on price action that wasn't there. Has put us into a situation where we should be green here on the day, right? And even if it isn't the world's biggest green days turn into green weeks turn into green months turn into FUs to your boss. So for me, right, that's a winning combo. So let's see if this thing's got some juice here. An enthusiastic breakout here through 580 or 5780 would be ideal. So now if we could really push like 2 or 3 points higher, and now we're going to shape up nicely. So far so good here, team, right? That's a $700 day here per account, right? Cannot complain about that. Let's see if this 780 can now turn into support, and then we can look to pyramid. Yeah, so I will always look to pyramid into trades, but the standard that I need to see here, right, to be able to make that decision. Fuck. Sorry. Always the worst timing. So for me to get that pyramid into this position, I would need to see a high volume separation on this 15-minute candle above, right, this 57.8475. So for me to trigger a pyramid entry, right, it's every high volume separation away from my entry price ends up becoming an opportunity to make that decision. Do I think I'm going to necessarily get it here? I'm less optimistic. But you never know. So would I love it? Yes, of course. But market will tell me if I have the chance. And it'll tell me on each high volume separation. So when I'm pyramiding in, it's basically, do I get more high volume breakouts away from my entry price that can justify me taking on more risk? Right? If I don't get those high volume separations, then it's like I'm not getting confirmation of continuation. And without that confirmation of continuation, I don't want to take on more sizing. Because most likely then I'll just give back P&L instead of seeing things compound here. So the standard, right, of which to pyramid is, do I have a new entry or a new setup trigger after my entry, right? That's really all I'm asking myself. And then it's just, do I get version 1, 2, or 3 of that setup? Does that make sense? So it's each high volume separation after my entry, right? That would be on its own a potential new setup. So I'm starting to not like these pullbacks very much. NQ still above 21. So let's see if we can survive this and really push it to the next level here. But now we're a little bit later on in the morning, right? So it's going to take a bit of time for this trade to potentially come together. And we're also trading this on the 15-minute time frame. So we don't want to overreact, right, to each move necessarily. And again, if we get a small win in a choppy day, that is not a bad thing. What I will not happen here now, or what I will not let happen here, sorry, I should say, is I will not let this trade turn into a loser, right? What was your entry price, PJ? So that's not an entry you can take, right? Because you're not getting the risk reward to justify taking on that risk, right? So the difference here between this green box and this red line, anywhere here, right, is a appropriate risk reward ratio to taking on that risk. Here, right, at an entry at 57.7850, you're risking 14 points to make 16 points. So, you know, you're going to need like a 70 to 80% win rate to make money with that thesis. That's not sustainable, right? You're not putting yourself in a situation where it's easy to be green. Yeah, but who cares, man? Practice good habits. If you can't trade disciplined on sim, you're not going to be able to trade disciplined when it really counts, right? So we can't use trading on sim as an excuse to be undisciplined with our process. Because if we can't be disciplined when there's nothing on the line, we're just going to default to trading what feels best. And what feels best in the moment is rarely what's best for our account long term. So I would really think about that thought process there, as that's not really a set of behaviors that's putting you in a situation that's going to help you become profitable long term. Then the question to ask yourself is, okay, why did I miss this entry? Why did I miss this trade? And what can I change next time so that I don't miss it, right? So if you miss the trade, you miss the trade, right? There's always going to be another one. But if we start taking trades where best case scenario over the course of 100 decisions, we end up flat, right? Like it's coin flip odds with, you know, 1-to-1 risk reward. Then you're just wasting your time, right? Because, you know, in a month's time, in a year's time, in 100 trades time, you don't really have a positive expectation of being profitable after all of those long-term decisions. So we got to make sure that the math works in our favor. When we take trades outside of this risk reward zone, right? Between this 236 and 0 line, then we no longer have the risk reward to justify taking on that risk. So that's something that is a choice, and you got to make a better one. Right? We're going to get plenty of action, you know. You get 10 trades a week. So if you miss 10% of the action, you're not missing out on anything, right? Really not. Yeah, it's just hanging out there, right? It's doing the same thing ES is doing here at this 5780. It's giving us a little move above, a little move below, without really giving me a ton of separation. So there's a little part of me that wants to close this for sure. But higher high, higher low, decreasing volume. I have no evidence that bears are in control here yet. So for now, I still have evidence to trust my plan. We'll see how long I have that courage. Right now, it's just a mental stop loss, pretty much at the green box. And my finger's just on the X button. So NQ is giving me separation now away from. So we can get back up above 2021. Again, there's kind of, I read this in Market Wizards recently and it's really stuck out to me. But when you survive what feels like your worst case scenario, that's generally a reason to still stay in your trade. Right, so we survived that pullback relatively easily. So that might be reason to still stay in this trade. Let's see if this thing can close above 57.80 on this 15-minute time frame. We got 2 minutes to go. No, plus 750 is not bad per account. But if this thing can really push up, make higher highs, maybe turn into a 5K day, right? Total across accounts, that'd be awesome. Now, I don't want to trade my P&L here too much. It's not a habit you want to get into, but always happy, right, to share my thought process. So let's see if this can hold 80 on the 15. If it can't, I'll just take my win and move on. Yeah, it's been, for lack of a better term, Adnan, it's been fuck you price action so far today. Nice work, Joey. It's a great day, man. Congratulations. Sounds good, Emil. Enjoy your day, man. So we got 20 seconds to go and 2 ticks to close up over. This will be close. Five seconds. Come on, lunatic. Oh, man. Let's see. I don't think NQ closed above. I keep clicking the wrong ES, apologies. Nice work, man. That's awesome. Not bad for a week's worth of work. It's closed right at the line, which is trying to buy myself a little bit of time to get a fill here. But it's bouncing faster lower than it's moving higher. Nice work, Em. Yeah, it was a very similar setup as well. So well done. All right, guys. I am out of this. I am out of this. $225 win. No, it doesn't mean that to me, Ben. For me, it's really simple. I want to jump in at the first time frame that gives me the right signal. So if I don't see that on the 5 or the 10 or the 15 or whatever, I'll just keep switching over until I see it right on the first time frame that wants to cooperate. So I'm not putting a ton of stock into one time frame telling me one thing, another time frame telling me another. I'm just looking for the first time frame that gives me the same story as my daily. Yeah, it loves that, 30-minute reversal, Topher. It loves it. So I hate getting caught by that. Truth be told, it's like one of my biggest fears in life. So that's why I love slightly later in the morning, right? Trading, CL, it's a little bit more appealing. And yeah, NQ lost with some conviction here. So time to fill in the journal. Not too much really for me to brag about today. Relatively choppy session, relatively small P&L. That's all right. It's the way she goes. Green days turn into green weeks, right? Green weeks turn into green months. Green months turn into FU to your boss. So can't really complain. I would say if anything, I probably should have been a little bit more aggressive once it closed, right at that 80 area. Should have just taken it there. Would have made an extra $300. All right, so journal entry here from myself this morning, right? Very choppy and slow day with wacky and wild price action on all time frames. Had to wait for price action to really develop before trusting a breakout higher. Played ES on the 15-min time frame at 57.7325. Was green almost instantly on my entry and saw price action move slowly towards 57.80. NQ was also near its psych level of 2100, and both areas had acted like resistance all morning. On the 15-min candle after my entry, I wanted to see the candle close above 57.80, and it closed right at that level before selling off. Was up as much as 775-ish per account, and gave back the majority of that P&L as price retraced after that 15-min, couldn't close above my res target. I entered this trade pretty late in the morning session and probably shouldn't have trusted it was going to give me a massive pop to the upside after 11 a.m. Need to protect profits better on these slow movers. So, okay, did some good things here, right? Did some bad things. Left a little bit of money on the table for sure. Probably about $300 to $400. And so that's a little bit disappointing, right, from that perspective. But I'll still take a green day, right? Trusted my plan, made a plan, had a target of when to get out if it's retraced. Probably should have, like, if I look back at it now here on ES, we closed at 57.7950, not at 57.80. So that should have been my reason probably to close it a little bit earlier than I did. Would have saved me, 3 or 4 points. So a couple hundred extra dollars. So not the end of the world, but I think just missing that little detail there, right, does compound pretty quickly and something that I should focus on a little bit more in the future. All in all, won't complain about a green day, right? For me, that's very powerful. That's something I love to see. But yeah, wish today was a little bit better, a little bit less choppy. It wasn't an easy session out there. So happy to be green, but probably should have been double what my P&L was here on the day. Any questions here, team? Anything that stands out? Anything you guys want to go over? Happy to try to answer some of those here now. Yeah, so talked about this a little bit last week there, Steven. I made well, it's not really a dramatic switch here. Yeah, one sec here, April. It was just that all my accounts at Apex and Top Step were past the 30 green days threshold. So decided to liquidate them all and close all of them and take the max payout that I possibly could. Upon reopening and restarting my accounts, I chose to just do them all with Top Step because inside their Top Step X platform, they just combine all of your exposure together. So you don't have to deal with copiers or anything along those lines. So it was just simply that decision. Just makes my execution a little bit smoother. This setup here, April, was the high vol breakout entry, right? So it was an increasing outlier volume breakout here on this 10-15 candle above previous high a day. So if we look at this here, right, here was previous resistance. We closed above the previous resistance on increasing outlier volume, strong enough candle shape, and so it was this high vol breakout entry, right, technique. And then we use the aggressive entry technique, right? Sorry, the pullback entry technique here, right, with the stop loss at that 68 area to be basically how we manage this trade. So it's the high vol breakout through the opening range. That was our setup trigger. So we're only ever going to trade, right, one of these variants. So yeah, what that means, Dwayne, right, is they limit your payouts until you have 30 green days. Top Step does this as well. They limit you to 50%, right, on Top Step. So you can withdraw 50% of your account every 5 green trading days. and then 100% of your account after 30 green trading days. Same thing with Apex. Apex limits per account. Each account's got different withdrawal limits. And after each 8 trading days, you can withdraw that amount. Once you hit 30 green days, you're able to withdraw everything. Just 5 green days total. Any other questions here, team? Yeah, you too, Mike. Yeah, no worries, Juan. Have yourself a great day, man. All right, team. Well, if no further questions, then I'm going to kill the stream here for the day. Same deal like always, right? If you have any questions, hit me up outside of market hours, and I will do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Yeah, have yourselves a great day here, team. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. And, yeah, hopefully we have ourselves a strong day. So have yourselves a great one, team, and we'll catch you up then. Peace.